Hey folks, welcome. Hope everybody's doing okay today, staying happy and healthy as one can at this time. We seem to be doing okay in the suburbs of Chicago here. Not a whole lot of cases. Hope things are good where you guys are at. Anyway, let's see who's on here. Don't know if anybody's on. Anybody out there? If you're listening, love to know if you feel like checking in who you are. Just chat me up for a second here. A name would be nice, not necessary. You can just lurk in anonymity if that's your choice. That's totally fine. Just love to know if there's someone listening. I just get a number. And right now my number is 1. Oh, now it's 2. That means somebody other than me is listening. That's awesome. I will teach to one person. I'd rather teach to 10, but 1 is cool. Yeah, if you're watching, let somebody else know. Let somebody know. Hope we can get some folks on here. I know I'm just stalling, but that's okay too. It would be great for somebody just to confirm, just because this tech is all still a little bit new to me. If you're watching and it's cool that you're watching and you can actually hear what's going on, just say, yeah, I see you, Peter, I hear you. Oh, 2 watching, so it must be happening. There we go. I'm just going to real fast copy this link and put it up on Facebook, see if we can get a couple other people in the mix. Almost done. Be right with you. All right. Duly posted to Facebook. Thanks for your patience, folks. Appreciate that. So, I thought it would be a cool thing to talk about rhythm changes today. The phrase rhythm changes, or the term rhythm changes, refers to a harmonic progression, a set of chord changes that originates with the George Gershwin tune, I Got Rhythm, written probably back in I'm guessing in the 30s. And it's an AABA song form. And what I'm going to do before I do anything else, before I play, I'm going to put up a couple of different versions of this and give you a minute to take screenshots of these chord changes, in case you don't know the song. Oh, that's not the one I wanted first. So, here's what you will see. And that's not it either. Huh. Well, darn, I'm going to have to make these changes in real time. As I said, it's an AABA song form. And generally played in B flat, but not always in B flat. So, but I would say the great majority of the time we're in the key of B flat. Just give me another second to fix this. Sorry about the wait. I'm in Sibelius here, by the way, in case anybody's interested. All right. So here's, if you were to look in a fake book and check out any standard rhythm section, rhythm changes tune, something by Bird like Anthropology or Olio or Moose the Mooch, any of these tunes that are written based on the chord changes of the harmony to I Got Rhythm, this is likely what you'd see. So I'm just going to let this sit here for a minute so you can take a screenshot of these rhythm changes. Actually, maybe while you're doing that, I'll play you the tune, just so you can hear what it sounds like. This is the original melody to I Got Rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. I'm recording there in Sibelius. I want to undo that so I don't screw my chart up. Hang on. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are basic rhythm changes. Sorry I screwed you up here. I took got the chart a little off center. All right, let me just hang another couple of minutes, and while I'm waiting for you to catch up, I got about a 30-second delay generally here on YouTube. If you look at the changes, you see 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 6, 2, 5. This 3 here is a substitute for 1. 2, 5 to the 4 chord, a little walk up to a diminished chord, and then another 1, 6, 2, 5. So kind of repetitious, right? All around the key of B flat. Bridge just basically goes to cycle of dominant sevenths starting on the 3rd. You know what? I have this wrong. I'm really sorry, you guys. I don't know what I was thinking. Gosh, you're going to have to take another screenshot. Pardon my mindlessness. Now it's correct, except that I'm still missing a bar. Now it's correct. Damn, embarrassing. Oh, I just try to do too many things, that's all. Not really embarrassing. All right, there we go. Finished. Promise. Okay, so there's rhythm changes. Okay, so a lot of repetition, basically just turnaround progressions. 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 6, 2, 5, 2, 5 to the 4 chord, passing diminished. And then here, this B flat, most bass players play an F in the bass just because E moves up to F, but that's just a bass player thing. 6, 2, 5, and then repeat. And then second time through, you take this second ending, and then you're at the bridge, which, as I was saying before I had to correct my chord changes, is just a cycle of dominant sevenths starting on the 3. So 3 dominant, D7, 6 dominant, G7, 2 dominant, C7, 5 dominant, F7. Okay, everybody with me? Let me just check in for a minute and make sure we don't have... Hey Oleg, how you doing? Yeah, the virus is influencing our auditory experience. I agree, and apparently my writing experience too. So what I did just for grins here is to create a simpler and simpler version of rhythm changes. So this is sort of the full-on version. If we go one step simpler, and you'll see what's going to happen is this sixth chord is going to disappear each time. Okay, here, here, and here. So if we look at that, now there's no G7 here. So it's just 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 2, 5 to 4, 1, 2, 5, 1. Okay? And that's a legit way to look at it. In fact, simplifying it to that point gives us a little less to think about. So if I want to go simpler still, I can take out the 2 5s. Then I've got the same basic progression, except now I'm down to 1, 5, 1, 5, 5 of 4, back to 1. And if I were to play the melody, still works, right? So the fundamental structure of this tune is really just sort of dominant, tonic, dominant, tonic, dominant or 5 of 4, and then back to tonic. That's the whole deal. Okay? Now if I want to go even simpler, if that's possible, I've called this one simplest. Oh, wrong thing. I want it simplest. I can reduce this entire tune to B flat. That's right, just B flat. Well, how could that be? Well, it depends when you're improvising. It depends on how you want to interpret something. I'm going to find something for you. I thought I had this preset, but I don't. See if I can grab this track. So if you think of the entire first 8 bars of rhythm changes as just B flat, and you might ask, B flat what? Well, that's kind of up to you, right? But here, let's see if I can find this track. Oh no, that's not it. It's Oleo, the Miles tune, but it's this Mel Lewis recording. And the solo I'm thinking about, oh, I misspelled it. That's why it's not coming up. Oh no, it's Moose the Mooch, right. All right, so check this out. I'm going to see if I can navigate to Michael Brecker's, the first chorus of Michael Brecker's solo. But you know that's playing back. Huh. This is not playing back where I want it to play back on my big speakers. But maybe I can make that happen. Well, I guess we're getting caught up here, but I'll just demo it for you instead. So if we want to think about this version of Oleo, rhythm changes, in its simplest, we could think of it as sort of B flat or B flat 7, right? So what that would, oh, you know, the whole time I've been doing this, I thought you guys were looking at the screen. Man, my technology chops not happening today. Okay. You guys should let me know. You need to just chime in and say, I don't know what you're talking about, Peter, because the stuff isn't up on the screen. If you don't do that, then I can't help you because I'm trying to do too many things at once here. All right, let me go through this really quickly since now I'm actually showing you the screen, which I was not doing a minute ago. All right, you can all see the screen now, I hope. Yes? You guys are going to turn me off if I don't get this shit together, I know. Well, there's still a couple of people here. It's extremely soft. Could I kindly raise the volume? Let's see. Let's see. Hopefully this is better now. Hopefully this is better now. We'll find out. All right, so here, now that you can see the screen, just real fast. Real fast, because you can see the screen. Basic rhythm changes. 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 6, 2, 5, 2, 5 to 4, 1, 6, 2, 5, right? Simpler version, we cut out the G's, the 6 chord, and then it just becomes I'm hearing something else here that I don't want to hear. So then it just becomes 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 2, 5 to 4, but it's been simplified. Simpler still, I'm going to take out these 2's and just make it 1, 5, 1. Okay. And then, as I said, if I want to go to the simplest version, I could just think of it all as B flat 7. And if you want to go to, after we're done here, if you want to go to YouTube and search on Moose, M-O-O-S-E, the Mooch, M-O-O-C-H-E, Mel Lewis, you'll hear a great version of this song recorded, I guess, back in the maybe 80s. Starts off with like a funky thing and then goes into swing. And listen to the first 2 A's of Michael Brecker's solo. He's playing all blues. He's playing, not the song All Blues, but he's playing B flat 7 or some version. So he might play. That's not what he plays, but something along those lines, right? And basically what he's done is reduced what is technically, or what on the more typical level would be this complex set of changes to just B flat all throughout, okay? That represents, just so you know, something that might be called a more generalized approach to improvising, right? Where instead of finding a specific chord, a specific scale, for each chord, you just pick a blues scale, right? That's the most, or a pentatonic scale. That's the approach that blues players use all the time, right? If they're playing on a B flat blues, they don't move from a B flat blues scale to an E flat blues scale to an F blues scale. It's all B flat. Doesn't matter what chord they're on. Well, you can choose to do that on a tune like I Got Rhythm, and Michael Brecker on that first 2 choruses of Moose the Mooch off the Mel Lewis record. That's what he does. He basically plays blues scale and pentatonic scale, which is only different by 1 note, right? Blues scale is this. The pentatonic just gets rid of the flatted 5th and just plays, right? So if you listen to the recording of Mel Lewis and Friends, Moose the Mooch, that's what Michael Brecker plays for like 16 bars, the first 2 A's, okay? But we want to talk about a slightly more sophisticated approach. So if I go back to this screen, and I'm going to go one simpler. Well, we'll go to simpler still. No, let's go to simpler. So now I've got B flat, C to F to B flat, right? So if I was to play off of that set of changes, I want to be playing something B flatty on this bar, and then some kind of 2/5 so I can hear this C cadence or this progression back to B flat. So that might sound like, so I hope you can hear that what I'm doing there is playing over the 2/5. So B flat. Now here's my C minor to F. B flat of the C minor moves to the third of the F. Flat 9. Same thing again. Now this is F minor to B flat. So this is going back to what we were talking about yesterday, which is, what is a 2-5? 2-5 is the 7th of the minor chord, so here's F minor, moving to the third of the B flat chord. Moving to the fifth of the E flat major. So if I just take that idea of the 7th of the minor moving to the third of the 5, 2, 5, and apply that, so let's go over it once more. Got B flat major, C minor, right? C minor 7, moving to F7. So here the move is going to be B flat to A, repeated, B flat to A, F minor, E flat to D, and then I can stay there. And then it's B flat, C minor to F7. So one of the tricks of becoming an improviser is learning to see that when the chord changes a 2-5, you have to translate that in your head immediately to, like, C minor to F7 doesn't mean this to me. Okay, that's what the bass player does. When I see C minor to F7, I think, because that's the melodic and harmonic essence, they're really essentially the same thing. When the bass player does this, and whoever's copying does this, what I'm hearing is or. Those are all essentially different versions of the 7th, B flat, moving to the third, A. So once again, when I see C minor to F7, this is what I hear. Similarly, when I see F minor to B flat 7, I need to think about the 7th of F minor 7 rather, which is E flat. So when I see F minor 7 to B flat, I think, because here's the note, here's the 7th of F minor. So the first step in learning to play 2-5s, which is a critical part of playing on rhythm changes, is being able to see 7 to 3 as the essence of the 2-5. 7th of C minor moves to the third of F7. 7th of F minor moves to D. And thinking that way gives me a very simple one-step approach to marking the changes. And the biggest part about being able to improvise is keeping your place in the changes and playing good time. So if I'm counting off rhythm changes here, which is slow rhythm changes, and just wanting to mark that little move, the 2-5s, here's what would happen. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 7th of B flat. That's very simple, right? But if I keep that core of 7 to 3 intact and then start to embellish it both rhythmically and, adding a couple of little pickup notes, whatever, just sort of dancing around a bit, what it might sound like is this. 2, 3, 4. Make sense? Maybe I'll pause here for a minute and see if there's any questions about this. And hopefully I did raise the volume a bit. on my streaming encoder, so hopefully that helped. Who said that? That was Dr. D. I hope that helped a bit. So we're on a delay, that's why I'm just hanging out here, waiting to see if any of you have any feedback before I go on. Like to know if the volume has in fact been increased sufficiently. If not, I can tweak it a bit more. I'm just trying to be careful of clipping and sending you guys some god-awful distortion. That would be not fun. All right, I'm going to keep going because there's this delay thing, and it's just, like I said, I'm new to streaming, and having a 30-40 second delay is just totally weird. But in any case, I'm going to keep on, and let's go to the next level with this. So if we were to go back to our chord changes, we'd see in the non-simple, in the sort of stock full of changes version, hope you can all see that, we've got this chord here which classical harmony people would call 5 of 2. I just call it 6 dominant. But in any case, this chord moves to this chord. So as soon as this chord moves to this chord, okay, this chord, I'm putting flat 9 on all of them, moves to the next chord. As soon as you do that, the one chord, the downbeat, becomes much less important. Okay? Because what you really want to focus on is how do I get from here to here and then from here to here. So this becomes the focus of your playing. Not so much this, not these 2 beats, not so much these 2 beats, but how do I get from here to here to here to here. Here you do want to make this change happen too. Okay? But this speaks to what I was talking about a little bit yesterday if you were on, which is where does one play? Right? Where do you play? Because you can't play all the time. Right, I'm going to get out of screen mode here for a sec. You can't play all the time. If you try to play all the time, for one thing, you bore your listener because they're overwhelmed with how many notes you're playing, and you're probably not saying much. And for another thing, you don't really allow interaction with your rhythm section. They look to hear spaces in your playing. The drummer wants to play a snare fill. Piano player wants to comp. Guitar player wants to comp, whoever's playing a chordal instrument. So if you take breaths in your phrases, it gives them a place to come together, to collaborate with you and make some music. So if I'm thinking now of the changes as B flat, G7 flat 9, C, F, back to B flat. Let's see what that does to your approach. All right, so let's take a look. We've got B flat major 7. And again, I would say, we haven't talked about it specifically, but in general, if you really want to learn your way through changes, you got to know where the 3rd and 7th of every chord are. So here's B flat major. There's the whole chord. You can take the 5th out. The 5th is an irrelevant note. Here's root, 3rd, and 7th. So if I don't play the 3rd and 7th in my left hand, and I just play a bass note, then it's important, essential for the soloist to be able to say or talk about the chord in terms of the 2 notes that actually color the chord, which are the 3rd and the 7th. You don't need to play the root when you see B flat because the bass player is already doing that. Right? If you think of it as a 2-part exercise or a 2-part musical composition, bass player is playing B flat, play anything but that, because otherwise it's boring, it's uninteresting. F is kind of a blah note, but the D and the A, that tells us what's going on. So watch, B flat major. Now I'm going to leave the G7 out for a minute because I went off on another thing. B flat, C minor, right? We already talked about 7 to 3. Now I'm using both the 3rd and the 7th of C, but emphasizing the 7th because it comes to the 3rd of the F. F minor, 3rd, 7th. All right, so that's just 3rd and 7th stuff. But now let's go back. I guess I'm assuming a little bit of that as common knowledge. let's go on and incorporate this G7 flat 9. So here's B flat, then we're going to G7 flat 9. Okay? So what do I want to do there? Well, the 7th wants to come to the 3rd of the C, wants to resolve. So here's my G chord. So I could say B flat, I could play a 3rd, or I could play nothing. 1, 2, 1. Those are the guide tones. Those are the essential. Guide tones just means what really makes the chord change happen. So watch. B flat, G7, 7th resolving to the 3rd of C minor, 7th of C minor resolving to F. Well, that's a bit of a stretch, right? So what if we connect it with the notes of the chord? C minor. So then we'd have make sense? B flat, here's the 3rd, here's G7, 7, passing tone maybe, 3rd of C minor, 7th resolving to the 3rd of F. So now when I go, I'm just rocking back and forth on C minor notes. I'm just trying to keep the line moving. Right? A lot of repetition. Ah. Making sense? So part of what I like to do when I practice and when I improvise is to take a basic idea, and then expand on it. If I can do, then I can do a little passing tone, encircling motion, or enclosure we call it, surrounding that note. G7. So if I'm shooting to get to that note, and this concept is really just basically, you can call it 3rds and 7ths, or you can more broadly call it target notes. If I'm on a C minor and I want to get to that note, watch, G7 flat 9, here's my flat 9, 3rd, 7th, 3rd, 5th, 7th, that's G7 flat 9. This is the root. To see it easily, you might have to do this. It's a diminished 7th chord. It's a diminished 7th chord based on the 3rd of G. Okay, so instead of this position, I'm just putting the A flat down there. So I've got right. So if you're playing that at a tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4. It really sounds like something. But the essentials of it are 3rd and 7th of G. I did play the whole arpeggio, but it started off with this. So basic, little more complex. Or more complex. F7, flat 9. So instead of, I said, that's the same thing. Instead of, I played, just toying around, right? Changing around the arrangement of the notes. But the core, I guess my approach here is you come up with an essential core, which is based first on 3rds and, well, first based on moving the 7th to the 3rd, 7th to the 3rd. That's the first thing. Then you add the third and seventh. And then you add notes in between, including the fifth and the flat nine. 3, 3, 5, 7, 5, 3, flat 9. All right, I'm going to pause for a minute because that's a lot of stuff and see if there's any questions. Just going to hang out here and wait a minute and see if you guys come up with any questions, because once again, I know we got a delay happening. Hey, Oleg, are you in the US? Just curious. Just because your name is Oleg Sokolov. I'm just wondering whether you're across the pond one way or another or here. Basically, I'm just making conversation. But really, I'm looking for input to you guys. I know there's only a couple of you out there, but I'm still interested in whether this is helpful. I don't know what level you guys are at. If this is really too simple or boring, let me know. I can make it a little fancier. Maybe what I'll do is play just a little bit and see if you guys want to, chime in with a question or two. That's great. But I'm just going to blow on rhythm a little to let you hear some music. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Sometimes it's easy to forget that the music has value without all the theoretical explanation. Dr. D stuck in India. Wow. So, in answer to Dr. D's question, am I playing specific scales when improvising? I guess the answer is it's yes and no. It's a great question, though, because it points to the difference between scales and voice leading. So what do I mean by that? I could answer your question, Dr. D, and say, yes, I'm playing specific scales, but I'm not sure that that's going to necessarily make you a better improviser, right? Because if I say, okay, on B flat major, I'm playing major, which I mostly am. If I say on G7, flat 9, I'm either playing this scale which is C harmonic minor, okay? On C I'm playing mostly Dorian, And then on F7, I'm either playing B flat harmonic minor, or I might be playing something called the altered scale, or I might be playing something called the diminished scale. All those things are valid, and I can write those out right on a lead sheet. I can give you a lesson and say, here, Oleg, go practice these 3 scales over F7. But does that really give you an idea of what the jazz language sounds like? And I would argue it gives you a hint, maybe. It gives you some raw materials. But it's kind of, in a way, it's more valuable if I say, oh, I bet you've heard so-and-so play this. So that's that B flat, or fragment of B flat harmonic minor over the F. Right, it's this scale on F7, but it's this, I'm sorry, I'm showing you the wrong view. It's this scale played over F7. So, but really the fact that it's B flat harmonic minor is irrelevant. What's relevant is that it's the 3rd of F, the flat 9 of F, F, 7th of F, or flatted 7th, and then resolving to the 3rd of B flat. So this particular melodic fragment, or voice leading, is a whole lot more valuable than the idea that the whole scale is this. Right? Because you could play that over the F7 and it might sound, if you don't start on the right note and end on the right note, it's not going to sound like much. So really more important than the scales are where the scale notes, how they relate to the chord you're playing at the time, and how they line up metrically. So if I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 3rd, flat 9th, root, 7th, resolve, note of resolution, right? So the fact that this is a downbeat is really important. That's a passing tone, that's a downbeat, and that's a passing tone, but it's a 7th. So that's way more important. Otherwise, I tell you it's the scale, and you'll just be sitting there going, it sounds great, maybe, but if changes are going by super fast, right? At that point, I'm not thinking about scales. I'm thinking about melodic patterns that I've derived from those scales, but really more from listening to the players I love. Right? That's where I get the ideas of, oh, here's how Barry Harris likes to use that flat 9 sound. And then you realize, oh, not just Barry Harris, but Wynton Kelly and Red Garland and Bud Powell and Cedar Walton, everybody uses that sound. And then it becomes apparent that there is a shared vocabulary among all the great players that does use, scales, etc. But it's really more what the players use, the kind of licks they use, the way they pick their notes out of those scales. So all that said, let's go back and answer your question once more. B flat, major. But the materials, I might use this arpeggio. That's a real common one on B flat. So is this one. So 7, 1, 3, 5, 3, 5, 7, 9. See, I think that's a more valuable piece of information than saying use these notes, because that's too much. So what? You can use all 7 notes. Make them sound good. Play this, or play 1, or 1. Right? Those are actual usages in the jazz tradition. G7 flat 9. Yes, it's C harmonic minor, but play it this way, just like we did on F. And then play a pickup note. Play 2 pickup notes, 1. So if I'm playing B flat, I might say 1, G. So that pattern, that melodic idea, is way more valuable a piece of information to you, or should be, than it's this scale or that scale. Because the scale information, you don't need me. It's in 10 dozen books. It's all over the place. Use this scale, use this scale, use this scale. What I'm trying to convey to you is the actual meaningful bits of jazz vocabulary are X, Y, and Z, and here's why they work. And the start of that is understanding thirds and sevenths, resolving sevenths to thirds, knowing that you use a flat 9 on a dominant chord, and that frequently you play the third to the flat 9, to the root, to the 7, to the third of the next chord. I know I keep saying the same shit over and over, but you'd be amazed at how many people never actually learn that shit, right? They learn the scale, and they noodle around, and they play a lot of busy notes on the scale, but they don't learn the actual patterns that make Cedar Walton, Cedar Walton, or Herbie Hancock, Herbie Hancock, or McCoy Tyner, McCoy Tyner. And that's the actual shit that matters. Make sense? I hope so. Let me pause again for additional questions. Yeah, so how do you, that's a good question, Dr. D. How do you phrase / convince the scales into something meaningful? Yeah, the third and seventh is definitely a chunk of it. You know, for years before people were streaming on YouTube or before there was jazz education, there was basically one way to learn, and that's to transcribe. So the good teachers do a combination, and I hope I fall into that category, do a combination of telling you to transcribe, basically, saying, who do you like? You know, whose sound do you dig? Go transcribe, and then if you have questions about why something works, come to somebody like me and say, okay, I transcribed this, I get this, but I don't understand what he's doing here. Why is this scale working? Or what scale is this? Or, yeah, why does this work? And then I can hopefully, or whoever you're dealing with, can illuminate that and say, oh, that works because it's whatever it is, you know? But then you're actually seeking, for one thing, you're starting with what really appeals to you emotionally, right? You got to check out artists. Hopefully you listen to the people you like. You don't want to be listening to people that don't do anything for you. If everybody else in the world likes Horace Silver and you hate Horace Silver, then don't listen to Horace Silver. That's fine. But definitely find somebody that you dig and that you want to check out. And then see what it is they're doing. The more you'll do that, the more you'll find that there is more in common between whoever, Oscar Peterson, Horace Silver, Herbie Hancock, Wynton Kelly, McCoy Tyner, Keith Jarrett, Chick Corea, Mulgrew Miller, Cedar Walton. You're going to find that there's more common vocabulary than not. And those things that are common is what binds the music together and makes player A able to play with player B without even thinking about it. So to address your question a bit more specifically, you said, how do you turn them into something meaningful? For me, and I said this a bunch yesterday, but I will probably say it every time I'm on here, the crux of jazz is rhythm, okay? So I'll give you two things. I mentioned these yesterday, but you probably weren't here, so I'm going to say them again. If you just practice starting your phrases on the and of some beat, right? And of 1, and of 2, and of 3, and of 4, I don't care. And then ending on an and, your phrases are going to sound better right away. Most players that are have less experience don't really focus very much on rhythm. So let me go out of well, we can stay here. That's all right. So rhythm changes. 1. So I said 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Now this doesn't relate terribly much to any change. Well, I did end on the E flat, which is good for the C minor. But more important was I said 1. Bayou, bayou, badoo-ga, a 1, 2. Now all that really is B flat major, right? Fucking boring. But not if played convincingly. Now if I played it really rhythmically poorly, if I played 1, sorry, nobody wants to listen to that. Sounds like I'm playing in a marching band, which has its uses. But if I play a 2, 3, 4, I played that on downbeat, my bad. One and two, I'm sorry, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. If you emphasize the and of 2 rhythmically and the and of 4 and frequently start your phrases on the and of 2 and or the and of 4, you'll sound better right away. I promise you. Doesn't matter, you could play all the wrong notes, but if you phrase rhythmically in a style that's in an accenting pattern and with the articulations common to jazz, your groove will improve, your time will improve, right? Time, feel, kind of the same thing, right? Because when you play with other players, they don't really give a shit how advanced your scale or knowledge is. They want to know, does it feel good to play with D? Does it feel good to play with Oleg? Are they grooving, or are they constantly searching for the next brilliant idea or hidden mystery scale? I mean, and that shit gets old really fast. They just want, whoever you're playing with, they just want to get together, call a tune, set a tempo, and play a groove and have it feel like a party, right? If the party is, I wonder what mysterious esoteric scale I can find there and play something that's never been played by humanity, screw that. Just groove. That's why people play the blues. Pentatonic. So, you're talking, okay, can you explain a specific concept? Some players, while playing, say, B flat, transition to B or A, and then get back to B, talking about the chords. I'm not sure what you mean by transition to B or A. You mean, let me think about this for a minute. You mean they use the notes B or A melodically, or do you mean they actually move to the key of B or A? Because if you're talking about that, maybe you're talking about guys that are like very high level players that play kind of outside and will, we could be talking about somebody like Mark Turner on saxophone or Joe Lovano, or more modern cats that have mastered everything I'm talking about and then are way at another level. If you're talking about that, it's a little bit beyond the purview of what I'm wanting to offer here. But maybe you can respond to this and tell me what you mean by transition to B or A. Because you said you're talking about the chords, but yeah, just waiting to see what else you chat. While we're waiting, I'll say this: there are specific chord substitutions. Yeah. So you're saying they move to a new chord for a few seconds, and there's a number of different ways to do that. There are chord patterns that can be substituted. So if you're on rhythm changes and you're playing, let's see. So if you're playing rhythm changes and say you're playing 1, 6. I mean, it's tricky on rhythm changes because things happen fast. But you could say you're playing fast and you decide instead of 1, 6, 2, 5, you wanted to just substitute for the 1 and the 6 a little chromatic 2/5. You wanted to play C sharp minor to F7 to C minor to F7. So at this moment, C minor to F sharp, C minor to F. C minor to F sharp has nothing to do with the tonality, but it's a pattern, right? So I could throw that in. I'll do it on bar 3. 2, 3, 4. Again, 2, 3, 4. B flat, C sharp. So that's something I just thought of in the motion. Basically all it does is add some additional harmonic tension. Now in that moment, unless I do that consistently over a number of choruses, at that tempo it would be hard for the bass player to catch that in the space of one bar. He might catch it by beat 4, 3, and 4, right? So I could do something else. I mean, I could play that's like a Herbie Hancock kind of thing. But those things are generally superimposed over what the bass player is doing without any foreknowledge. I mean, there are songs composed with those specific kinds of substitutions, and then they're inherent or a part of the actual arrangement or part of the composition. So there's a handful of checks like that. People call that sidestepping or side-slipping, where if you're thinking of C to F, you could play C sharp, F sharp to C to F, or you could play B to E to C to F, right? I mean, and does that actually work? Yeah, sure. If anything works if you're convincing about it, right? Let me try B to E. Right? Kind of convincing. Probably I'd do that and somebody go, whoa! Like, I'm a fucking genius or something. I just put in a little 2/5. I just thought, but yeah, you have to know that this exists. That actually exists in several tunes. I'll see if one jumps to mind. Chromatically ascending. Oh, I know where it is. You know the song Afternoon in Paris? No. And the bridge goes. No. Damn it, I lost it. Oh, yeah. So no, that's not an ascending one. That's one I was just demonstrating. C sharp to F sharp, C to F. I think, I gotta think about it again. No, that's in B flat. I'm in the wrong key. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. So in Afternoon in Paris, at the end of the bridge, it goes 3, 6. I'm sorry, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, and I should be going to D minor, but John Lewis, the composer, went to C sharp minor, and then up a half step to D minor. So, you're asking, what else can you do? How can you go somewhere else? Some of these ideas come from actual compositions that the masters have created. Here's John Lewis, the Modern Jazz Quartet, and he says C sharp minor in the key of C to F sharp, D minor to G. So if I steal that idea, right, and put it into rhythm changes, somebody who's astute might have said, "Oh, I hear that, man. I hear you copped that from Afternoon in Paris, the end of the bridge, right? Right? I mean, then it has like a historical and a meaningful musical context as opposed to this, academic. Oh, you can take a 2/5 a half step lower and then move it up a half step. I mean, I suppose either approach is valid, but kind of cool to hear hear it in a tune, and then say, oh, I think I'll put that into, practice here. I hope that's somewhat helpful. Yeah, and some guys do all kinds of sidestepping or side slipping. The playing in the last, it started with Miles and Herbie in the 60s, but especially in the last 10, 15, 20 years, melodic playing by really high-level cats has gotten very sophisticated, where guys are able to do things or willing to do things that probably can't be terribly easily explained by conventional approaches to harmony and melody. They're pioneers in the music, shall we say, right? You're welcome to go there. I would still always urge you to transcribe, even if it's somebody very modern that you dig. If you like a Mark Turner, if you like a Chris Potter, whoever you're listening to, if you like, Robert Glasper, whoever you dig, check out those guys, but always know that they have listened to all the guys that I've listened to, right? They've listened to Cedar Walton, they've listened to Herbie, they've listened to Chick and McCoy. They know those cats, and there's always a lineage. Something always came from somewhere. Nobody just pops out and comes up with some out there shit and says, hey, I invented this. That's just not the way the music develops. All right, just a couple of quick words because I'm way over time here. But I did want to, well, you know what? We'll do it another day because this is too long. It's already an hour plus. But what I'd like to do next time, and I'll be on here tomorrow in case you guys are interested, we'll focus on the bridge on rhythm changes, because the bridge is just a series of dominant seventh chords, right? D7. Sorry. D7 to G7 to C7 to F7. And we want to figure out, how do we play through this cycle of dominance, 2 bars apiece, and sound good. And one way to do it is to put a 2-5 in front of each, to think of D7 as A minor to D7, to think of G7 as D minor to G7, think of C7 as G minor to C7, think of F7 as C minor moving to F7. Then you have another point of motion. Instead of just 2 bars of each chord, you have 2-5, 2-5, 2-5, 2-5. But to be continued tomorrow at 1 p.m. CST. Try and remember to post some kind of invite. By the way, if you like this stuff on my YouTube channel, click on the little bell, because that turns on notifications, and then when there's a new video up there, or an invitation, a little video invitation, you will be notified. If you don't click on that bell, you don't know. I hope you've dug all of this. I hope I was intelligible. So tell your friends. Gotta get the word out here. I love to share this stuff, but the more people there are listening, the more fun it is for me. And hope to see you again tomorrow, 1 o'clock CST. Take care, you guys. Bye-bye.